right? By 우연히 Alexandria Sweet. Okay, so here we go. So for nearly 3 centuries, 자 보세요. nearly라 그랬습니다. Nearly 3 centuries before the birth of Christ, Alexandria was the center of the Western world. 여기가 중심이었대요. Center. Alexander the Great founded the city in 332 BC. 이게 founded 됐고요. And laid out its basic grid with a long, wide central avenue, the canopic way, connecting the gate of the sun at one end of the city to 어디까지? The gate of the moon at the other. 이제 his achievement예요. 근데 보세요. after라고 나왔습니다. 얘가 이때 뭐를 했고 after Alexander's death, 그렇죠? I always told you happenings are important. Happenings, events. So after his death, what happens? The empire was divided among his lieutenants. The Ptolemy I Soter, who had been one of Alexander's generals, took over Egypt. 자, what happens next? From Alexandria's strategic location near the mouth of Nile. 자, 여기에서 from이라고 합니다. 여기에서 the Macedonian Greeks were able to dominate both the trade routes of the Mediterranean and the Nile Valley. With its 1,000-mile swath of rich agricultural land. Well, nothing really here. Before the Ptolemaic dynasty ended, 자, 이게 end 되기 전에, before it ended, with the death of Cleopatra in 30 BC, Alexandria had grown. 자, 이런 거, advances. They had grown into the world's first true metropolis. An opulent, multicultural center with a population of about 600,000. Metropolis가 되면서 population increase of 600,000. Although Alexandria was later outstripped, 나중에 outstripped 됐죠, by Imperial Rome, Europe was unable to sustain urban life on such a scale again until the 18th century. 이제 18th century가 중요한 거예요. Why? What happened then? When London and Paris reached a similar size, the city Ptolemies built combined the grandeur of Egypt with the classical traditions of Greece. 얘네들도 여기서 이제 중간에 해프닝들이 많이 나와 있잖아요. 그런 마이너 디테일도 좀 중심적으로 보시고요. 자, perhaps the proudest achievements of Ptolemy. 자, 이런 거 단어들 표시하는 게 좋습니다. proudest achievement이에요. 뭐? And his heirs was the great liberty, which was situated in Mosion, the temple of Muses. The Ptolemies were insatiable in their pursuit of books. 자, 여기서 갑자기 in their pursuit of books인데 insatiable means like they were not satisfied. 만족스럽지 못했어요. 그럼 왜 만족스럽지 못했을까 생각을 하면서 읽어야 되겠죠? They decreed that every ship that passed through the port of Alexandria hand over any manuscript or scroll on board for copying. They got the Athenians to give them a set of the major Greek tragedies and paid a fortune for what they believed was the liberty of the philosopher Aristotle. Now the Ptolemies also called upon the sovereigns and rulers of the world to send them all the books worthy of inclusion in the great library and summoned 72 Jewish scholars to translate the Torah, creating the ancient Greek Old Testament known as the blah blah blah. 그럼 여기서 봤을 때 여러분들 봐야 되는 게 뭐겠습니까? 얘네들이 뭔가 they were not happy. So what did they do? These such things that they did. Right? 그래서 이거를 만들었어요. They gathered Buddhist texts from India and a work of blah 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 said to contain 2 million lines. Eventually 결론이에요. They succeeded in amassing about 500,000 scrolls. 자, 그러면은 they maybe succeeded. 그렇죠? The great library housed scholars as well as books. They had scholars, books, functioned as the ancient equivalent of a think tank. The mathematician Euclid completed his famous Elements in Alexandria and dedicated it to Ptolemy Soter. 자, 이 사람. 그리고 we have other scholars at the Mosion mapped and measured the earth and the stars and produced great works of astronomy, physics, and autonomy. But under circumstances that remain mysterious, the great library's vast collection. 자, 저는 I always put a focus onto transitional words like but, however, while, On the other hand, all these words, they're important. They show us a significant change. 지금까지는 good achievements였는데 갑자기 여기서 생뚱맞게 but이 나왔고 여기에서 vast collection이 뚜루 어떻게 됐을까요? Destroyed. There we go. Some bad things happened. Surviving only fragments, only as fragments, copies, or quotations in later texts. 많이 망가졌습니다. So, what's gonna happen? In the world of scholarship, the ancient library of Alexandria is the ultimate romantic story, a kind of paradise lost. One ghostly image haunts all of us, charged with preserving the creative heritage of humanity, the specter of the great lost library of Alexandria, Lost Library. James H. Billington, the United States Librarian in Congress, said in a 1993 speech, "This image inspired the Egyptian government and the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, to undertake a major new library project." 자, 그러면 여기에서는 your brains or your eyes should be sparked. Why? The word undertake, it means another form of action that's going on, right? And their action was, which has been, billed as the revival of the ancient library of Alexandria, right? 이거를 다시 살리자. So, the new library's architecture is in keeping with its ambitions. They have hope. A glass and aluminium disc-shaped roof, almost twice the length of a football field. 자, 굳이 football field가 왜 나왔습니까? 이런 것들도 여긴진 모르겠지만 문제 나타나요. They are used to show how big it is. Right? When they give references of like a soccer field or football field, 뭐 이런 것들 문제 나와요. At an angle rising from below the ground to about 100 feet in the air, it is meant to look like the sun emerging from the sea at dawn. The surface of the roof includes hundreds of different colored panes and resembles a huge computer circuit chip, what it looks like. On the back of the building is an enormous curved wall encased in granite, on which the characters from almost all the world's known scripts and alphabets are inscribed, symbolizing the universalist aims of the new project. 저 여기서 symbolizing, 뭐뭐를 표현하는, 보여주는 the universalist aims. 그렇죠? 뭐 worldwide interest의 목표들 of the new project인 거고요. 자, last paragraph. Here we go. But as the building is completed, questions are beginning to emerge. 자, 이런 question들 중요해요. What does it mean to revive? 이게 뭘까? An ancient library whose exact location and contents are unknown. Can a library that will start with about 250,000 books, far fewer than the number in the library of a small 4-year-old college in the United States, hope to live up to its grand claims? 과연 가능할까? Does it make sense to build a library designed to hold 8 million books at a moment when so much information is moving from printed to digital form? In the age of the internet, does it even make sense to conceive of a universal library in terms of glass, aluminium, and concrete? 이건 이제 사람들의 잠깐 이제 뭐야? It's like they're having doubts. You know, is it really meaningful? Is it purposeful? Is it worth it? Is it possible? You know, these kind of questions. And then it ends. Right?